Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 8169. I so move.
Is there any objection? There being none, motions approved.
Mr. President, I move that we consider the budgets of the National Defense.
Is there any objection? There being none, motions approved.
This is for all the attached agencies. Mr. President, may we recognize the sponsor, the distinguished gentleman from Cavite and the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Panfilo Lacson, to present the budget of the National Defense.
The sponsor of the budget is recognized. Senator Lacson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader. The total 2019 proposed new appropriations of the entire department or the Department of National Defense is 183,893,177,000 pesos. There's another 306.3 million under the automatic appropriations for RLIP, retirement and life insurance premium. There's another, in addition, there's an allocation of 68.053 billion pesos for veterans and AFP pensioners under the Pension and Gratuity Fund, of which 57.935 billion will be for AFP retirees and 10 billion for veterans. There's a separate allocation of 942.6 or 0.7 million pesos under the DPWH proposed 2019 appropriations for construction, improvement of various infrastructures in support of national security. Also, to fund the needed amount to pay the arrears in the pension of the AFP retirees, there is a proposed appropriations of 33.861 billion under the unprogrammed fund in the fiscal year 2019 General Appropriations Bill. This is pursuant to Joint Resolution number 1. That's just about it, Mr. President. And to make a statement, Mr. President, one of the major issues I was told that will be taken up, at least by one of our colleagues, Senator Dick Gordon, who is not present yet, is the issue on Hanjin. And rightly so, because this has far-reaching security as well as economic and even social implications on us Filipinos. And having said that, to have a better discussion, a smooth discussion on the issues surrounding the surrounding Hanjin, may I move that we constitute ourselves into a committee of the whole, so our colleagues may be able to ask directly the resource persons present here today. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Before I act on that, what is the total of the budget of the DND based on all the numbers that you mentioned? If you add everything, is that roughly about 300 billion?
183.8 plus 306 ang total. Yung total na. Total na lahat. But of course, the other items are under automatic appropriations.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
And the special purpose fund.
And the unprogrammed fund.
Unprogrammed.
So roughly about 300 billion, no?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Is there the minority leaders recognized before we act on the motion?
We have no objection to the motion, Mr. President. Is it my understanding, however, that after we complete the debates as a committee of the whole on the Hanjin issue, we'll go back to the budget of the DND?
That is my understanding.
That is correct, Mr. President.
President, we've had the precedents in the past. We don't actually need to suspend the deliberations on the budget. During the budget, we just suspend the rules under Section 21 to allow the resource persons to answer.
Yeah, but precisely the motion is to focus the debate on the Hanjin issue and allow the Secretary of National Defense to directly respond. Now, after the issue has been debated upon, we will go back to the budget with now the sponsor of the budget responding to the questions of our colleagues. That's our understanding.
Yes, Mr. President. May I just make an explanation? we actually don't need to suspend the deliberations on the budget. We'll just suspend our rules to allow the resource person to answer directly the queries of our senators. That has been preceded. There's already a precedent on this in the past budget hearings, with the permission, of course, of the
No,
body.
we
So-
are not, Mr. President, with your
Yes.
permission, we are not suspending the debates of the budget. In fact, this is part of the debate of the budget.
Yeah.
Only in this portion of debate of the budget debates, we tackle the Hanjin issue. And in tackling the Hanjin issue, we constitute ourselves as a committee of the whole so that the Secretary of National Defense can directly respond to the questions. Afterwards, after all the questions have been answered or whatever action we take, then we go back to the regular budget deliberation on the D&D budget with now the sponsor responding to the questions on the budget of the D&D. That's how I understand it.
Yes, that is correct.
And in fact, we have done this before.
That's correct.
I have done this before.
Yes.
So I think that should be the procedure.
Thank you
We
very
do not
much.
have to suspend the rules.
Yes. Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved. Please proceed, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, with the motion approved, we can now recognize the Secretary of National Defense and to answer the queries of one of our colleagues, Senator J.V. Ejercito, who would like to propound some questions.
Yes. The Secretary of National Defense is recognized to answer the questions of Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the Secretary of National Defense be willing to answer some of my queries?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, just like to ask some questions regarding the AFP modernization. As we all know that in the recent years, the armed forces have been very busy in its modernization program, and I'm very happy to see that we are finally equipping our men in uniform with modern and reliable equipment. And just recently, I came across an article, a news article, that the armed forces is now acquiring the famed Black Hawk helicopters. Is this true, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, Senator, we are acquiring the Black Hawk helicopter. This is a product of the Lockheed Martin that is being made in Poland.
Anyway, that is really, the Black Hawk is really one of the workhorses, so to speak, of the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Armed Forces. And of course, it is very reliable. And I'm glad that when I read the news, being one of one person that really likes to read anything about military hardware, I'm quite excited. But my only concern, Your Honor, Mr. Secretary, is that it is built by Lockheed Martin, but it will be produced or manufactured in Poland. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The reason that I raised this concern because, as you know, we had a bad experience recently of a type of choppers that we were able to acquire from Poland, no? And these are the so-called helicopters which the Philippine Air Force is currently using. And as of the moment, if I'm not mistaken, out of the 8 new acquired so-called helicopters, only 5 are flying because 3 are already crashed, even without enemies. Wala siyang kalaban pero nagka-crash mag-isa. So can you confirm, Secretary Lorenzano, that the so-called 3 have already crashed?
Yes, Your Honor. We acquired 8 of the so-called helicopters from Poland, and 3 are already destroyed, so we are already using 5 remaining.
For the information of the body, I was supposed to be riding in one of them, which crashed.
Yes, that's
just a
correct.
month ago.
Just a month ago, yeah, in Crow Valley,
That is
if I'm
correct.
not mistaken. The Senate President Pro Tempore was supposed to be in that ill-fated chopper. Anyway, Secretary, if you may, probably some of the armed forces may recall also, just a few years ago also, that we conducted an investigation regarding the purchase of the UH-1Ds, the refurbished UH-1Ds, of which, because of the Senate investigation, as a result, the armed forces canceled the remaining orders. Out of the 21, only 7 were delivered, and unfortunately also out of that 7, only 5 remains, and also 2 of those refurbished already crashed. Huh? So am I correct? Tama mo ba, Secretary?
Not quite right, Your Honor. 13 units were
13
delivered.
were delivered.
And the remaining 8 are on hold or already, particularly these are already cancelled.
Anyway, the reason why I am quite, I'm really concerned about this, because these air assets, this concerns the lives and safety of our men in uniform, no, that use them daily. And hindi naman pwede ho ito, hindi naman ho pwedeng tulad ng mga truck, mga tangke, o kahit na refurbish sila, kung tumirik ito, pwede natin itabi. But these are air assets, and we cannot compromise the lives and safety of our men in uniform that use them. And also, Secretary, iba rin po pagbago yung equipment, no? In the same way, the armed forces, the Philippine National Police, pagbago yung equipment, it gives you the confidence. Our men exudes that confidence that their assets are top-notch, so to speak.
Yes.
So, yun lang po ang aking concern, that the Black Hawk will be manufactured in Poland. Is this company, the PZL missile company, which was bought by Sikorsky in Poland? Di ba ito yung dati ng aircraft manufacturer that was bought by Sikorsky in Poland?
Yes, Your Honor. I think the Lockheed Martin of USA bought a plant an aircraft plant in Poland and already transferred the technology of manufacturing the Black Hawk. So these are actually American products, but manufactured in Poland. And so the certification will be coming from Sikorsky.
Yeah, to be exact, it's PZL Milek, a Polish aerospace manufacturer. I think this was the one that was bought by
Sikorsky USA.
Sikorsky. So, doon naman po sa with regards to the training materials, to the trainers, will they, since it's Sikorsky, will this be already in English? Hindi na ho siguro, I assume that this will not be in Polish, yung mga manuals po at yung mga trainers, there will be American trainers already?
They will be in English, Your Honor. They will be in English.
That's good to hear, because that's what I heard from some Air Force personnel before, that yung naging problema po with the Sokol, since meron language barrier, yung mga manuals, tapos the trainers, instead of them having the actual performance, ang nangyari, demo na lang, kasi nga because of the language barrier. So, in this case, since it will be a Sikorsky company, a Lockheed Martin company, so magiging trainers po natin, mga American na po.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, the training of our pilots will be done in Florida. So all the manuals and everything will be in English. Will be understandable by our pilots.
And that's good to hear. So at least we will be assured that the pilots will have actual performance. No? They will have their actual hands-on training this time, not merely demo. So, yun lang po, Secretary. I just want to make sure that being a Sikorsky licensed manufacturer, sana po it will be really Sikorsky talaga ang nagsusupervise.
Yeah, that's right.
Diba?
That's right.
So, kumbaga parang sinabi nga, as I was talking to our Chief of Staff earlier and our Philippine Air Force Commanding General, that it's just like Apple or having iPhone made in China. Kumbaga, ganon din ho yung prinsipyo. Kahit na ito po'y gawa sa Poland, ito po ay supervised by the mother company that is Sikorsky.
Yes, Your Honor. That's correct.
Yeah, because I hope. When do we expect the delivery of the first units of a chopper? Because I think, from what I know, it takes about a year or two to build one chopper as we order.
Your Honor, according to the manufacturer, they can produce the whole lot in 2 years' time. But what our Air Force wants is, once the contract is signed, we want deliveries in the next 6 months after the contract is signed. Even just a couple of choppers to be delivered maybe monthly thereafter until the whole lot is delivered.
That is 16,
Yes,
am I
Your Honor,
correct?
16.
So, and also during our conversations in the past, no, wala pa ho ito sa picture, no? And actually, I have to be honest with you, I was surprised and I was quite happy because of ibang level na itong Black Hawk, Because at that time, we were discussing that the President wanted to get, considering choppers from Russia or from South Korea or even China. So,
Yeah.
buti na lang, may pumasok na gato kasi kinakabahan ako para pag doon ho tayo kumuha,
In fact, Your Honor, the Air Force considered several platforms, the Mi-17 of Russia, the Sorion of Korea, then the AW-139 of Augusta. But
I thought that because since the Armed Forces already has Augustas, I thought that you were leaning towards that because another issue, Mr. Secretary, is that this will be another type of aircraft because that would need new sets of mechanics, technical people, even pilots. So, will that be a problem in terms of personnel?
According to the Air Force, Your Honor, that's not an issue because they have flown the Black Hawk before. In fact, we still have one flying Black Hawk. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear also. No. So I just want to be assured, Your Honor, that because when I heard, nung narinig ko po talaga na ito'y gawa sa Poland, talagang ginabahan ako. Of course, kumbaga may stigma. Even our Senate President pro tempore almost was in that ill-fated so-called chopper that crashed recently. So, kumbaga, meron ho tayong konting stigma, meron tayong napag naririnig natin. And upon research also, supposedly our hardware we should be getting from manufacturers that also sell to other countries. Ngayon po, nung chinek ko po yun, yung so-called, dalawang bansa lang ho ang gumagamit. It's only the Philippines and Poland, the manufacturer. And I hope that this does not happen again. So I hope that you are very confident if the Air Force Commanding General and the technical working of the Air Force are confident that these choppers are safe, reliable, being licensed and supervised by Lockheed Martin and Sikorsky, then they are quite excited that at least we are gone are the days that we have to buy refurbished Vietnam era UH-1s. At least nag-level up na talaga ang Philippine Air Force and Armed Forces. So that's all, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Secretary Lorenzana.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator JV, Secretary Lorenzana, Majority Leader.
I believe the next in line to ask questions is Senator Richard Gordon, but with the permission of the Secretary of the body, I'd like to ask a few questions on the issue on Hanjin, since we have not taken up the issue on Hanjin in the first place.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, in the past few days, it's come to the national consciousness that we had one of the biggest companies in the Philippines operating here in the Philippines in terms of employment. These people employing at the one point in time with several ships in their yard, about 30,000 Filipinos, has asked for rehabilitation of their business enterprise from the banks. It's short of filing for bankruptcy, Mr. President. It's very, very unfortunate because from 30,000, high of 30,000 people, they now just have a measly 300 to maintain the very large property that they have in Subic Bay. Mr. President, it's sad not only because of the loss of jobs, but it also puts us backwards in the map of being one of the foremost countries in shipbuilding. These people are skilled workers. We have one of the best skilled workers in the industry employed by Hanjin. So it's such a waste to see this facility closed down, not of their fault, but actually their mother company, Hanjin, the mother company of Hanjin, Hanjin International, folded up also in Korea. They are also under bankruptcy in Korea. This is an opportunity, and I had a chance to speak with the good secretary earlier. Sabi ko, when one door closes, another one opens. And this is a golden opportunity to take advantage of being able to take control of the Hanjin facility for shipbuilding, for our Navy's modernization program. We welcome our distinguished gentleman from Subic. I'm sure will be the next in line to propound some manifestations and queries. But going back to what I said, when one door closes, another door opens. So we have this opportunity, golden opportunity, and I've read the statements of the dear Secretary Lorenzana, that he is in favor of being able to look for local financiers to work with government to operate Hanjin, so that we can, or to take over the Hanjin compound, call it with another name, and eventually build ships and boats for our Navy and Coast Guard. What are your thoughts on that, Secretary?
Yeah, Mr. President, while we sympathize with the financial woes of Hanjin, we are excited really by this development because we see the possibility of having our own shipbuilding capacity in the Philippines, especially large ships like what's being built in the Hanjin shipyard in Subic. And so I was the Flag Officer in Command, Admiral Impedrad, reached out to me, I think yesterday or the other day, and I said, why not we take over the Hanjin and give it to the Navy to manage? And so I brought this idea to the President last night, and he is very receptive to the idea, although the Secretary of Finance, Secretary Dominguez, is also thinking of how the banks, the local banks, can recoup their investment there, which amounts to about $430 million US. But really, this is really very perfect for us, so that we are actually ordering ships from abroad, and if we can take this over, then we can build our own ships here. The Coast Guard is also in need of lots of ships for their use. So why not? I think the government can be a minority owner, and the majority owner will be a civilian company.
Or could be reverse, Mr. Secretary. It could be management of the shipbuilding facility could be from the private company, but majority stake still owned by government. So that kung nag-allocate tayo ng pondo para bumili ng barko, instead na bibili tayo, papagawa na lang natin dito sa government-owned and controlled corporation or some joint venture, kumita pa tayo. In other words, yung pondo na gagastusin natin, imbis na pumunta pa sa ibang bansa, yung pondo na yan, ay kumita pa tayo, Pilipino pang gumagawa ng barko natin, it's under your control, under the Department of Defense, and I think it's a win-win solution. Maybe, Mr. President, you know, the advocate of this is Senator Gordon, among all the members here yesterday. I just laid the predicate for his queries, Mr. President. But I fully agree with you, Secretary. You have my full support and probably the support of many of our colleagues here. And you know, maraming tinataguan na pera si Senator Ping sa budget. Maraming siyang alam. Hindi niya tinatago. Maraming siya alam. Baka makatulong siya. Siya ay makakuha ng pondo para dyan, Mr. President.
With the permission of the majority leader, Mr. President, may I just
please proceed.
Just one interjection. This is a very raw idea, not well thought of. But I would just like to ask the Secretary of National Defense yung kanyang thoughts about this proposal. 430 million US dollars is roughly around 22 billion pesos.
Yes, sir.
22, 23. There's a float of 75 billion no, in the proposed 2019 budget. Give or take, nasa mga 100 billion actually, kung isasama pa yung ALGO. So, 22 billion, what if the government will just take over Hanjin and then bid out to possible partners, private entities? So, kikita pa yung gobyerno, hindi ba? Is that a good idea? And then, let the Philippine Navy partner with that private entity. Anyway, pursuant to EO 423, if I'm not mistaken,
423.
merong guidelines ang NEDA kapag yung Philippine government will partner with a private entity. I think this took effect April of 2005. So depending on the consultation to be made with NEDA, is that a good idea if the Philippine government takes over first and then look for possible partners, a private entity as partner?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that's a good idea.
So merong extra income and then continuous income and may facility pa yung Philippine Navy.
Yes, sir. In fact, the Navy has 20 ships to be built in the next 5 years. So,
Ang susunod na tanong is the Philippine Navy prepared to take over? Technically, with the expertise?
Mr. President, Your Honors, we cannot take over totally the entire Hanjin, sir, but a portion probably the Navy can take over.
So you can be a part owner?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to yield the floor back to the Majority Leader
Thank you,
and,
Mr. President.
of course, to Senator Dick Gordon.
We fully support the initiatives of Senator Lacson. If he can find the money in the budget for this, we fully support him in this as well. Mr. President, I terminate my queries on the good gentleman from the Department of National Defense and yield my time to the good gentleman from Subic. You know that is his baby. Subic is his jewel of his crown, and he has many jewels in his crown, Mr. President. But the largest jewel is his management of what once was, what they used to, what once people called Subic Bay Naval Base. And once Pinatubo exploded, they thought nothing would come out of it. But because of his mentorship and handling of Subic and his mayorship of Olongapo, he's made Subic a world-class facility. I believe that Hanjin also was one of his babies, bringing in Hanjin and several other corporations to Subic. So I yield the floor, Mr. President, to the distinguished gentleman of Zambales and the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Richard Gordon, to propound more questions on this issue. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Gordon is recognized. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for affording me the short time before you even preempt me. At the outset, I'd like to apologize for a little bit of tardiness this morning. I had thought that we were going to discuss the budget of the Defense Department at 2 o'clock this afternoon. At least last night, that was what I was told. Anyway, we're always ready here in the Senate anyway to ramify. Let me just premise my statement here by saying that last year I almost did a filibuster here because after we passed the train law, I wanted 13% of the train law to be allocated to the Defense Department to modernize our fleet over and above the base conversion, base conversion fund share, and over and above the allocation annually for the Department of Defense. Mr. President, I'm one of those that have really been very, very antsy about the fact that the growth of our military has really lagged behind. I'm no longer happy with the usual excuses that our country's defense, una, ang dami natin excuses, umasa tayo sa military ng Amerikano. You know, this is a country, kumbaga on the boulevard of broken dreams, you are the country of missed opportunities. when the U.S. Navy was here, when the American Air Force was here in Clark, we could have used the time that they were here to put assets that would otherwise go to defense and create our economy. But again, we did not. Now, when the Americans left, we had to do a no-huddle offense, as they say in football. Wala nakahanda, we had to pick up Subic, and really, with the help of many thousands of volunteers, we were able to protect and preserve it. And it did not become an embarrassment like what happened in Clark, which was riddled with all kinds of burglaries and looting. And I'm sorry I have to say that. I have always been blunt, and I don't intend to change, because that's what we need to do, find out what our problems really are. And so today, Mr. President, we see a world, especially in Asia, which has been the cockpit of possible conflict. I'm sure the Secretary is aware of the chicken game being played before between the Japanese Navy or Coast Guard with the Chinese Coast Guard and the Chinese Navy over some islands south of Japan and near China. And of course, you know that the Chinese have been trying to get their way into claims of islands of our country, and they have now converted these islands into airfields. And just recently they were complaining about the fact that America was being very reckless about sending their destroyers in what they claim are Chinese waters, when in fact these are international waters. At the same time, they've been rattling the cages of Taiwan. They say you cannot become independent, and that they would take up action against China, against Taiwan, should they do something that is not to the liking of the Chinese authorities. Obviously, there is a change in the mindset of China. And I'd like to go into mindset. What is in the mind of the Chinese right now? Are the Chinese engaging now in a slowly but surely effort at securing hegemony in our part of the world, so much so that, like America, they used the Monroe Doctrine in South America, that no foreign presence will be allowed in the Atlantic, in the South America, and they're now saying we are not going to allow any other foreign fleet in the Pacific, meaning to say we want the Pacific to become a Chinese lake, particularly the accidental nomenclature of the sea claimed by the Philippines into a China Sea, which has been traditionally named China Sea, and which recently have become the West Philippine Sea. What is the view of the Defense Department on these developments in Asia and the Pacific?
Mr. President, it's very clear that the Chinese is trying to extend its influence in the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea. And the fact that they have built, reclaim islands there, built islands out of shoals and reefs, and turn them into practically a military base or naval base, then their action is very clear that they would like to have a control of the area. And in fact, they discourage naval ships to be flying those areas near their reclaimed their artificial islands. So it's very clear that they would like to have some hegemony or control over the.
So hegemony.
Philippines.
Hegemony has become the policy. Maybe not in those words, because the Chinese want to be a little bit subtle, but we all know that there is a move now to create this part of the world as a Chinese lake. I mean, certainly creating land from rocks, and then creating an airport from these rocks, as you can see over there, creating an airfield, that makes it closer for China to interdict the areas, and particularly so close to the Philippines. How far is this, sir, by air?
Which one?
To the Philippines. These are airfields.
Johnson Reef is just north of, I think.
Johnson Reef is on the right. Here.
Yeah, Johnson Reef is just north of.
400 to 500 kilometers.
This is within our West Philippine Sea.
196 to 230 nautical miles, around 400 kilometers.
About 400 kilometers away.
400 kilometers.
Mr. President, yes.
It's almost like from Manila to Cebu.
Just a little over
Di ba?
Cebu.
Malapit lang. So, kung lumilipad po tayo dito, nakikita natin sa radar nila na gumagalaw tayo. Di ba?
Yeah, of course, that's right.
They can listen to our radio frequencies and listen to the radio chatter coming from our armed forces.
Yes, they can. Yes, they
So, that has changed the equation in our country's military security or national security. Don't you think so, sir?
Yes, Mr. President, it has already since the time that they installed these facilities in that.
And even if China is our so-called friend, and I say so-called because that's the policy of the president, and I agree with him to befriend China and try to talk with them, but at the same time, he wants to speak softly, but I hope that he will carry a big stick, if you know what I mean.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have that big stick right now.
We do not have the big.
We do not have that big stick right now. In fact, not only can they see us, not only can they hear us, they can be here in less than half an hour. Would you say so, with flying at supersonic speed?
Yeah, with the base in Mischief Reef, that's nearer than this one. So maybe half an hour.
If you're in
Half
Mischief,
an hour.
in 20 minutes they'll be here.
Yeah, 20 minutes they'll be here.
Within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound too comfortable for us to be able to sleep solidly at night and soundly, and knowing that if there is trouble, they could be here. For example, if something should break up between Taiwan and China, it's too close to us. And we definitely, obviously, would eventually be involved. Don't you think so, Your Honor?
Maybe, because I don't know how could we be involved with the Chinese-Taiwanese conflict, but
If Taiwan takes over, and this is very far away, actually, these parties are already so near, but if they take over Taiwan, that is certainly a very, very serious overt act. If they even do what they did in Kemoimatsu in the 50s, which obviously gave us severe hiccups at the time, even with the U.S. Navy presence here and the Clark Air Base presence here, certainly that would change again the equation. I mean, I just want to point out in this interpolation that we cannot put our faith in the good faith, our trust in the good faith of other countries.
that's correct, yeah, Senator. That's correct.
And that is why it is so important that we understand that today we have to be adequately prepared for any eventuality. Would I be safe to say that our policy is to be able at least to engage for a brief time at least, while our allies come to assist us in case we have trouble with another country. It could be China, it could be Vietnam, it could be Malaysia, where we don't have enemies. But certainly, although countries don't have enemies, there is always, I'm sure, a policy or studies being made if we are suddenly attacked. What is our game plan?
Well, at least our game plan is to prevent loss of lives by our people, to prevent them from getting in. So that's why we are investing, Mr. President, on some assets that could, as a deterrence for any attackers.
Well, and I laud you for that, because I think this is the most serious investment that has been undertaken in the last several decades. Would you say that's correct, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And that is why I said that if we are not going to get that 13%, if I don't get any assurance and that we're going to get those investments, I would stop and try to stop the passage of the train law until via filibuster. That has been known to happen here in the Senate. Senator Lim gave one of the longest filibusters before, just to get the idea across that we have to prepare, and sabi nga la civis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, you have to prepare for war.
Yes, Mr. President, Mr. Senator. In fact, if we can get that amount from the train law, then that would be a windfall for the armed forces, because what we are getting now from the appropriation is only 25 billion a year. Only 25 billion a year automatic allocation. And we submitted to the President last year a budget for the next 5 years of 298 billion. That's so 25 billion a year. That would be there'll be a short for about half of that.
That would still be a pinprick, wouldn't it be? When you compare it with China, it would be a pinprick. In other words, parang tinusok ko lang ng aspili. Sabagat ang budget ng China ay umaabot to ng ilan ba yan?
Maybe 200 billion.
No, China. Ang budget doon ng China is the third now in terms of military spending, di ba? Of the United States, and there's still a far cry from the budget of China. And certainly, we are an eternity away from the budgets of these countries.
228 billion.
Military expenditure of the United States is $610 billion, or 3.1% of the GDP. And China and the Philippines is 4.4 billion. Tama ba? 4.4 billion? Is that correct, sir? 4.4 billion? Yeah. No. $4.4 billion.
Oh, dollars. Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Okay,
I was thinking of pesos kanina eh.
No.
Billions, dollars pala.
Talagang Ilocano talaga kayo. Kaya pareho tayo.
Yeah,
$4.4 billion. Right? So, ang layo talaga. 610 trillion sa America. China is 228. So, even if you get the 13 billion, and I can see and read Senator Rector's mind, and he is our mathematical wizard here, very, very good in analysis, along with our other colleagues here, malayo. Hindi ba?
Malayo talaga.
Pasensya naman kayo, I'm just belaboring the point. Gusto ko marinig ito ng mga nanonood sa Facebook o nanonood doon sa, because it's important na maintindihan nila. So, sa akin po, yung pong assets natin ngayon, ang pang-intercept lang natin ngayon, hindi po ba totoo na tayo ay, wala tayong F-16, wala tayong F-15, yung F-5 natin, hindi na lumilipad. Namili tayo ng Crusader, hindi nakalipad. Halos hindi nagamit. In other words, kaya nga Boulevard of Broken Dreams, wala lang talaga tayo napalipad na gamit. And yet this is from a country that had the best Air Force in at least Southeast Asia in the 50s. And today we have what? 8
12 F-A-50s.
F-A-50s, di ba? From Korea.
Yes, sir. From Korea.
And I was told last year, now, don't worry, sir. Ang makina niyan parang F-15. Tama po ba yan?
F-16, Senator.
F-15 po ba o F-16?
F-16.
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 Ang makina. Pero ang armaments, sir. Anong armaments yan? Meron bang ship or air-to-ship missile? Awanin.
Meron tayo.
Oh, wala. Alam ko wala eh. I don't ask questions that I don't answer. I did not research the answer for.
Meron tayo.
Air-to-ship missile? Air-to-ground. Air-to-service, di ba? Kaya niyang, kung halimbawa, niloloko tayo ng China sa kanilang barko, kaya niyang to have a shot in their bow, in front of their bow.
Yes, sir. We can do Maverick, sir.
Ah?
Yes, sir. We have the Maverick, sir, missile. Meron, but it's just a limited quantity. But we have.
Marami na yung 5. Nagpa-practice ba kayo dyan?
Not yet, sir.
Hindi ba dyan nagpa-practice?
But practice.
Dahil mahal. Para kami, nung ROTC, may Springfield, hindi na ba kami makaputok ng gusto because walang bala?
Yeah, that's right, sir. But we have practice parang dry fire, sir, system. But yung actual, sir,
Ang gusto ko dito, mapakita sa ating bansa na talagang walang-wala ang ating gamit para matuto tayong bumili ng tamang gamit at yung mga sundalo natin na in charge ng procurement, itutuhanin na talagang dapat, yung bibili yung talagang dapat gamitin natin. Tama po ba yan? Yung po dapat ang policy.
yes, sir. So the answer,
I am
sir,
talking, sir, with the Secretary of National Defense. You cannot speak here.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Senator. Yes,
Yes, sir. Okay. Having said that po, kung ganun lang talagang gamit natin, wawalo, ano naman ang panlaban sa atin ng China? Sige nga po.
Meron silang fighter planes,
Ano yung Shenyang ba yan?
Shenyang.
Shenyang.
Yeah.
They have ilan? 24 units. And they're capable of going at sea level 1,400 kilometers per hour, reaching at 4,500 kilometers. Which means that they can go to maybe Hawaii?
They can fly
Hindi naman siguro. Hanggang
Guam.
Guam. Yes, sir. Eh tayo nasa, ang lapit-lapit natin sa kanila. Kung China mainland, about siguro mga 2 hours, 1.5 hour.
Not even, Senator, because that's a supersonic aircraft.
Sandali lang, ano po? And then they can interdict our FA-50 easily.
Easily.
Without even seeing our aircraft, they can shoot a missile.
Yes, of course, yes.
Hindi na kailangan makita yung ating aircraft. Babarilin nila yung aircraft natin na hindi natin namamalayan. Binabaril na tayo. Tama po ba yan?
Yes, sir.
So, ganun tayo ka-prostrate. Ano po? Wala tayong malay halos. May malay pero hanggang ganun lang ba tayo? Sana meron tayo niyan. O sasabihin natin, kasi hindi tayo kumasos ng araw. Hindi pwede. In other words, this is the time to make decisions. Hindi ko ba?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir,
when
Senator.
the military comes here, and I don't mind saying this because I've been doing this as a senator, na talagang inlalaban ko na lumakas ang military. And every year, the decibel count of my voice and the desire to have this becomes more urgent, especially because we cannot prepare until only when we're already in trouble. Kaya hindi tayo nire-respeto po ba? Kung halimbawa Vietnam, ano naman ang pantapat sa atin ng Vietnam?
Oh, meron silang submarines.
Ano yun? Sa airplane lang muna.
Airplanes lang. They have Sukhoi.
Sukhoi.
They have,
Sukhoi 27?
Sukhoi, I think 27, yes. Not the 35, no? Yeah.
Ayan na, para magtulungan na tayo
The
rito.
older version. The older version.
I tried to do our homework here. Ang fighter aircraft ng China is 1,125. Hindi ko naman yun dito. Ang attack aircraft is 1,527. Siguro kasama na lahat yung helicopter, lahat dyan. But, Thailand has 75 fighter aircraft. Indonesia has 41 fighter aircraft. Attack aircraft is 80. Ano ba diferensya doon? Did you ever try to find out? I asked you those questions the other day. Fighter aircraft of Taiwan is 286. Attack aircraft is 286. Trainer lang nila, halos 1-to-1, 205 ang trainer aircraft. Tayo ba, ilan ang trainer aircraft natin with the FA-5? FA-50?
The
1:1?
The EP-50 is also a trainer aircraft. So 1:1, yes.
So, kumbaga ko anong araw, Ricky na, Tirso pa, o kaya Nora na, Bilba pa. Nagparinig ko lang kay Sir Director. Ang araw, sikat sila, Nora na, Bilba pa. In other words, yung aeroplano natin, ginagawa na natin trainer rin.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Ang Taiwan, meron silang 1:1 trainer, iba yung pang-aircraft. No, of course, magagamit na rin kung kailangan magtulakan. Attack aircraft ng Pilipinas is 20. I just want to show this. Vietnam has 286 fighter aircraft. And this is the place where we should really urgently try to provide more resources for our country. Now, not to mention, what about, I remember reading a newspaper account na tuwan-tuwa ako na sinabi niya, we'll buy 2 submarines from Russia. Umalma pa yung Amerikano. Hindi naman nagbibigay sa atin.
Yes, sir. Medyo malabas sila.
Where are we now on the submarines? Because sa akin, kung lalapit tayo dyan sa air power mo yung sinabi ko, naval power po tayo ngayon.
Can we
Paghatiin nyo na nga, naval at saka air.
may request the Pag-Operation?
Yes, sir, please. Go ahead. Admiral?
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. President.
Do you think we need submarines?
Of course, sir. We need submarines, sir.
And do you think that that would be our prime weapon, especially in the Spratlys? Kung lalapit tayo doon, at least dapat hindi naman nila tayo makita. Although, of course, they have sonar. And perhaps, I don't know how advanced their sonar is, pero they can detect us. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
would you say that their sonar is quite advanced na kung may submarine tayo, mahuhuli pa rin tayo o makakasingit pa rin tayo?
Submarines are very hard to find, sir. That's why all navies are improving their sonar capabilities to look to
Well, the
identify
quest for
submarines.
a silent submarine has always been the quest of the silent service.
Yes, sir.
The Americans invested an awful lot of billions or trillions of dollars already in the last several years to have a very, very quiet submarine, something that doesn't cavitate, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Para hindi narinig. So, kung meron tayong dalawang submarines, and China has 73 submarines, right? And the best enemy of a submarine is a submarine.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hindi ba?
Yes, sir.
And if they have 73 and we have 2 and we don't even have 2, not even 1, what is our game plan in case
We improve our anti-submarine warfare capability, Your Honor. That's the trend now of all the modern navies, sir. They improve their anti-submarine warfare capability so that we can locate where the submarines are.
and our ships are being fitted with that? Our frigates are being fitted with ASWs?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
But they still have to find them, so you still have to have good sonar. And do we have good sonar?
If we will get our 2 frigates, sir, the anti-submarine warfare helicopters that we will receive in March have a good sonar capability, Your Honor.
Pero nakakagulo pa tayo kung paano natin i-outfit yung isang barko natin, di ba?
Yes,
Isa
sir, but
galing sa
our-
Korea, isa galing sa... Ano ba yan? Ano ba talaga nangyari na doon? Is that a frigate that we acquired na lalagyan natin ng weapon system?
The frigates that are being built in Korea are installed.
Have we decided finally which weapon system we're going to put in there? Di ba may debate dyan kung Norwegian ba yun o Netherlands?
All are decided.
What was it, sir? Norwegian or Netherlands weapon system?
Netherlands or those from Republic of Korean companies.
So na-decide na ho yun.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, ang panlaban natin is anti-submarine warfare. Yun lang.
Yes, Your Honor. The 2 frigates that will be acquired.
Anti-submarine rockets.
We have the anti-submarine warfare helicopters with torpedoes that can...
Ilan ho yan? Ilan ho yung atin doon?
We will get the 2 helicopters.
We will get, in other words,
In 3 months,
is
sir.
that present progressive or future tense?
In March, sir, we will
In March.
deliver.
They less than 3 months, mga 2 buwan.
Yes, sir.
And they will be equipped with all this equipment. And where are we getting them?
From United Kingdom, sir.
It's not our place to suggest to you what should be acquired. Because to me, I think I've always followed the doctrine of a needs-driven procurement system, not a supply-driven.
Yes, sir.
May I ask you an embarrassing question?
You can, sir.
Is it not true that in the past we had money pero either nag-failed bid, hindi natutuloy ang bid because masyadong malakas ang lobby ng mga humingi ng cash sunduan sa Defense Department?
I don't think so, sir. I think the problem is still budget. We were not released the budget that we need for our modernization.
I would appreciate a little candor here.
Yes, sir.
That's common knowledge. Even from retired military people I talk with, yan ang inaangal nila. Yung bumibili raw, pagka nalabi na, kaya nga, this is the time I want to be able to say that,
Yes, sir.
because we are quite serious, at least this representation is, and I'm sure Senator Recto, Senator Dillon, all these people love the country, Senator Lacson, Senator Zubiri. We want to make sure that the money we get will buy the right weapons, not will buy the right weapons like some people attempted to sell us ZTE, which is supply-driven, not needs-driven. I know meron tayong Kabaro syndrome, but I think it's about time we professionalize. So if even we get the 13%, pag binaboy pa yung pera yan, that is treasonous. Would you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, treason is committed only during wartime, but to me, even in peacetime, as far as I'm concerned, that would be an act of treason. And if we have to amend the law to do that, I would do it, quite frankly. Try to do it anyway. So having said that po, where are we now on Afp modernization? In 3 years, what would we have capability for? A credible military that can give any interloper a nosebleed or make him think twice about attacking our country? Huwag kang magulo dyan. Baka mamaya, lalaban niya ang mga Pilipino, may gamit na sila. Di ba? Yun ang inaasam natin.
Yes, Your Honor.
Panlaban.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ano ang panlaban natin in 3 years? Remember, these people are not just sitting around saying, we're happy with what we have. They're always developing. Now China has gone to the other side of the moon. And when they do that, they're able to develop other weapon systems. Because their discoveries there, their effort at propulsion and all those things, they are able to develop new weapons. Would that be correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, in about 3 years, or is that your target? What is the target when we can say we can defend the Filipino people?
We have 3 horizons, sir, until 2028. By that time, I think we have a credible capability to defend our country, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
I'm trying to lay the predicate for what we were talking about earlier, because at the refectory in the Senate yesterday, we were talking about Hanjin. Now, let me just put it this way. Hindi po ba totoo na ang Japan, nung binuksan ni Perry yan in 1853 or 1854, can you correct the date, please? 1853. Commodore Perry opened Japan. Japanese were wearing kimonos. They had samurai swords. They had no steamships. They had no ironclad ships. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then they opened up Japan with a major restoration starting in the 1880s. Tama po ba yan?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm sure you took it up in the academy. Did you or did you not?
We did, but we cannot remember all.
Or at least at the U.S. Naval War College, kung pinadala kayo sa War College.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure they'll teach that in the Naval War Colleges in Australia or the United States, right?
Right, Your Honor.
And having said that, by 1905, the Japanese had battleships that sunk the whole Russian fleet in the Battle of Tsushima. Are you familiar with that, sir?
Yes, sir. They have that capability already.
And what happened to Japan then? It got the respect and attention of the whole world. And that started when they saw Commodore Perry, which delikado tayo rito. Mga barko nila mabibilis. Ang kanilang gamit, makakapagpadala sila ng, ang kanyo nila malakas. So kailangan umabot tayo ng ganyan, di ba? So is there that kind of urgency, you think, in the military and in the civilian sector in this country? Give me an honest answer. Kayo mga nasa military, do you think that there is such an urgency in the mindset of our country right now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Really? 2028 pa tayo magkakaroon ng capability?
No, sir. Our modernization will be until 2028 at 3 horizons a year.
Can you explain something to me, at least the Air Force? In 1952, when I was a kid, we have ano yung Saberjet F-86. That was the state-of-the-art fighter weapon, right? And we went to the Congo, right? That was the Philippine Air Force in 1952-54, correct? Or maybe 56? 1960. Nagamit pa yung F-86 doon. Congo. So, paano natin nakuha yung F-86 nung araw? Binili ba natin yun o binigay ng Amerikano? Sir, can you speak in the microphone? And please identify yourself.
Sir, my name is Lieutenant General Brigues, the Commander of the Philippine Air Force. Sir, I think that was given by the Americans, sir. But I will just confirm. But you're right, sir. We were using that in the 1960s.
And that was considered the state-of-the-art?
Yes, sir, that's right.
And the Philippine Air Force at that time was considered one of the best air forces in Asia.
That's right, sir.
In fact, we had a show here at Nichols Air Base at that time, before it got called Victor Air Base. We had air shows, correct?
And we had 16
And we had the Blue Diamonds.
16 plane formation, that's the only
16
time.
plane formation.
That's right, sir.
And now we have an 8 plane formation.
4 to 6 plane formation, sir. But we have 12 aircraft, sir.
Tumawad pa. 4 to 6 na lang. Wala pa palang 8. I mean, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm on your side. I'm trying to beat the drum, ring the bell, and let everybody from the President of the Philippines to the barangay captain somewhere in the province of General Lorenzana, which is I think in Davao, no? Lumipat na siya from Ilocos, na marinig natin na, oy, kapos tayo. So, kung magkagulo, how realistic is that? I will ask Secretary Reza, how realistic is that we could be engaged in a shooting war with China? Like what happened in Vietnam, or like what happened in the parallels with Taiwan and China, and like what happened in India, between China and India. How realistic is that happening here in front of our, in between our islands?
That would be very unlikely at this moment, Your Honor.
Unlikely?
Yes, because each side is very careful in what they're doing. And in fact, if we are successful in drafting our code of conduct on the sea, conduct of the sea, then that would eliminate miscalculations, I think.
Sir, are you familiar with the book of John F. Kennedy? Why England Slept?
I'm not.
If I remember correctly, he wrote the book when he was still in Harvard, or right after the war, and he talked about why England slept. If I remember correctly, I remember reading that book very, very long time ago when I was still in college. And they allowed Hitler to grow from the Treaty of Versailles all the way to World War II.
World War II.
The weakening of Germany, abject weakening of its economy and its military, not being allowed to create weapons of war, so much so that they fashioned secretly a pocket battleship because they were limited in terms of dead weight. Isn't that correct, sir?
That's correct.
And the Graf Spee and the Bismarck was that. In other words, they really adjusted their strategy. Hindi po ba totoo yun? Bawal tayong gumawa ng malaking barko. Gagawa tayo ng lighter battleship pero with the same weapon system as the others. Hindi ba? And it wreaked havoc during the Battle of the Atlantic. So much so, one of them was sunk in the Battle of the River Plate. I think it was the Graf Spee. Or was it the Bismarck? No, the Bismarck was sunk somewhere in the Atlantic. But the point was, nakikita nila, nalalaki sila, naaapi sila, gumagawa na sila ng paraan, malayo pa, wala pang giyera. On the other hand, England just slept and said, oh, hindi mangyayari yan, hindi makakagiyera yan. Malayo na, meron tayong Maginot Line dyan sa France, hindi tayo susugurin, hindi papasukin yung Belgium, yung Luxembourg. Pero pinasok na ng World War I, pinasok uli ng World War II. So how can you be sure? And say, I'm not warmongering here. I just think we should base our national interest on the analysis of our military and our foreign affairs to find out what is really the reality out there and are we prepared to cope with it, at least to buy us time. And I now go to the Mutual Defense Treaty that you were talking about the other day that we have to fine-tune because the Japanese Mutual Defense Pact allows the Americans to take over any land territory or naval territory in Japan should, in the interest of Asian, not even Japanese security, Asian Pacific security. Are you aware of that, sir?
No, sir, I haven't read
Well,
that.
I have it here.
Yeah.
Article 6, for the purpose of contributing to the security of Japan and the maintenance of international peace and security in the Far East, the United States of America is granted the use by its land, air, and naval forces of facilities and areas in Japan.
That's clear.
In other words, walang, kanina nabasa ako doon sa Facebook, nagagalit, Indo-Amerikano na commander ng submarine, nagpunta sa Subic, wala nang base, nagpahinga dyan, pagdating dyan, nag-order siya ng smorgasbord na Pilipino, kakasakit sa tenga, prostitutes, kasama niya pa yung kanyang sailor. Na court-martial siya, may nangyari sa kanya, tanggal siya. And yet, ang sinasabi ng article, bakit ka walang naiskandalo? And yet, dito, the Americans can go to Japan and why? Because ang kanilang pakay ay yung national security. Di mga irritants are important, we should avoid it, but di ba dapat ang focus natin doon sa national security talaga? And that's why I asked that question from you, sir. and I have the highest respect for you, na is there a possibility that that can happen? I know if you say that, jari yan. Pero, well, we have to be realistic here. I'm not discounting. I'm not discounting that because who would imagine that China would attack Vietnam after the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
And why would India build aircraft carriers? I think they have 2, right? 2 or 3?
I think 2.
2. And now Japan, in spite of its pacifist constitution, now has an aircraft carrier. It used to be a helicopter carrier that now has a F-35.
Yeah.
That is vertical takeoff.
Yes. They're
O hindi ba in-adjust yun? Di ba yung Washington Treaty, in-adjust yung Japan, hindi kayo pwede maggawa ng mga malalaking weapons in the 1920s or something about that time? So, in other words, what I'm trying to say, sir, this is not, hindi ako nagpapasika dito na marami ako lang. Ang sinasabi ko lang, lahat yan naghahanda kung ano mangyayari, iniisip nila para nakakasa sila. Hindi yung doon ka lang maglo-load pagka malapit na, tapos wala ka pa ikakarga. Hindi kawawa talaga tayo, hindi po ba? Sa akin, ang nakikita kong policy, meron lang tayong panlaban pansamantala hanggang may tutulong sa atin, hindi ba?
Yes, Senator. Yes.
Which was what England came out with. England was begging the Americans when Hitler had already taken over France, nagmamakawa sila, padala nyo na kami ng destroyer na luma. Hindi magawa ng Amerikano because they had the Neutrality Act. Hindi sila makapagbigay ng... So that Roosevelt had to finally come out with the novel idea of Lend-Lease na pag nasusunog yung kapitbahay mo at meron kang host ng bombero, bibigyan mo siya ng host. Kaya nakakuha sila ng 50 na second hand, na third hand na destroyers para ma-escortan yung malakasan yung sa English Channel. Now, sinabi ko yung English Channel, ganyan kalapit ang Taiwan sa China. Separated only by the straits or so many miles, give or take. Gano'n rin ang Spratleys with the Philippines. So kung ganyan na kalapit, eh dapat talaga, nakahanda na tayo na meron tayo ngayon na ikakarga sa ating budget, na ikakarga natin sa ating kagamitan. At walang lukuhan. Yung bibili natin yung talagang kailangan natin. Tama po ba yan?
Tama po.
Pero so far, ang ginagawa natin, meron tayo C-130, dati 1.5. Ngayon nata, 5 na ba? Ha? 5 na. Mabuti naman, isa, 1.5. Lumilipad yung isa nasa ground. Di ba? Kailangan natin yan because ang doctrine natin para madadala natin yung insurgency, makakadala tayo ng sundalo at supplies kung magkagulo sa Mindanao. Tama po ba yan? At kung aalis yung mga tao natin sa Middle East, kahit paano, meron tayong dignity na makukuha natin yung mga tao natin kahit paano sa C-130. Tama po ba yan? Eh kung halimbawa, ang ating crystal ball ay sinasabi, ang lapit na ng China, meron sila mga weapons of war na sandali lang na andito na, ano ang plano natin? Yun ang, sa haba-haba ng prosesyon, yun ang gusto kong tanongin. Ano ang plano natin kung sakaling mangyari yan? I cannot rely, I'm sorry, on, hindi naman siguro mangyayari. Kaibigan na din kong ano pangalan ng matanda doon sa China?
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping. Hindi naman mangyayari na. Kung Xi Jinping, okay. Or for that matter, or at the very least, bago ito sagot yan, do we have any rules of engagement in the South China Sea?
We have, Your Honor, meron tayo.
May I show you some newspaper accounts or TV accounts? Kinukuha ng mga Chinese yung pinaghirapan ng mga fishermen natin na isda? Saan yun? You show it? Ayan, nasa TV. Meron bang account isang araw? Chinese fishing vessels are really manned by Chinese military men. Tama po ba yan? Yung po bang intelligence natin?
Yeah, that's our
Correct.
that's our
So sila nakahanda, ang laki-laki nila, tayong maliit, wala tayong hinahanda. Ayan o. Pinaghirapan magdawag. Sa bayan ko yan, Sambales, Scarborough Shoals. Anyway, sir, I can belabor the obvious. I'm really beating upon a dead horse. Why do I get that feeling? I'm beating upon a dead horse. Yeah. Hey, guys.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Yes,
That's
sir.
why we are trying very hard to improve our capabilities.
Sir, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we're not trying to fix the blame. We're trying to fix the problem. It's mindset. Para bang yung mahirap sa atin, ang mindset, kung di ko makuha yan, ang sagot ko kasi mahirap lang ako eh. Para bang yung mindset natin na, gusto ko mag-ambisyon ka, mahirap lang kami eh. Anak, hindi para sa atin yan. Parang ganun ang mindset natin eh. Kaya yung haba-haba ng tanong ko, gusto ko mabasag ba yung mindset na yan, nakakayanin ka. Tulad sa Japan, pagdating ni Perry, pare, kahit na mahirap tayo, malunod man si Swako, lumubog man ang barko, kailangan meron tayong sariling panlaban dyan sa mga puti na yan. Yun ang mindset nila. And for the first time in history, an Asiatic power beat the white man on even terms. Di po ba?
Yes, sir.
So again, the question is, how far and how fast, and you, sir, are in the cabinet, now I'll put you on the spot. Hindi pa pwede nating tungkiin si Digong ng konti. Shit, medyo delikado sitwasyon, medyo magdagdag tayo. Because the President himself called this representation, and I laud him for his humility. I didn't want that. Hindi ako nagyayabang dito. Para sabihin, huwag ka na mag-privilege speech, Dick. Huwag ka na magkuhan. Dahil, I promise you, palalakin. And I believe him. Sinabi niyang 2 submarines, palakpakan tenga ko doon. Pero so far, wala pa sa order yan. Kailan ho ba darating yung 2 submarine na yan? Kung darating man.
Sir, we're still in the process of the procurement system, sir.
You know, sir, ang gobyerno natin is very famous for present progressive.
Yes, sir.
Ginagawa na po yan. We're doing it po. Nakahanda na po kami dyan. Pero, ang tanong ko palagi, and I work for a company called Procter & Gamble, hindi mo pa sabihin ginagawa yan. When are you going to deliver that submarine? That has got to be a date and say, at this time, we will be ready to have this kind of capability. Or is it beyond your control?
It's around 5 to 7 years, Your Honor.
5 to 7 years. So, wala na si President Duterte. Wala pa tayo submarine.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ano na magiging jets natin in about 3 years?
In about 3 years, sir, we will have our two
You had
frigates.
ilang kamo? Ilang F-86 itong araw? Ilang kanyo? 20, ilang formation? 16 plane formation. Today we have 6 and 4 plane formation. When are we going to have the 16 plane formation that we had in the 50s and the early 60s? Sir? Sir, in the microphone, please.
Sir, if the procurement will push through, we will have in 2026 another 16 plane formation. So, including the
2026.
multi-role. That's the delivery of the multi-role fighters. Complete
Tagal naman.
delivery.
Tagal naman.
We will front load it, sir. Probably 3 years earlier.
Look, alam nyo, I don't believe na walang pera ang gobyerno. Kung gusto, maraming paraan. Sabi ko nga kay Ping Lacson kahapon, yung 75 million na natuklasan natin dito, pasok na ako ngayon sa Hanjin. Imagine the mindset of the Chinese. Makita nila si Perry, ang ganda, nung hapon, makita nila ang ganda ng mga barko nila. Ang pumasok sa kanila, hindi tayo mahirap, wala tayong kaya. Ang pumasok sa kanila, gagawa kami ng barkong ganyan. Tama ko ba yan? At tingin nyo?
Yes, sir.
Because of history. Nakita natin, gumawa sila ng barko, di ba? Punta kayo din sa opisina ko, andun yung Musashi. Yung lumubog dyan sa Sibuyan Sea in 4,000 feet of water. Dahil nawalan na sila ng Air Force, ang tawag nila doon, Hilton na. Naubos ang Amerikano lahat yung kanilang Air Force. Nung lumusog si MacArthur, pinapak ng US Air Force and US Navy, yung barko nila lumubog dito yan, wala na silang panlaban. So gano'n rin tayo, wala tayong Air Force. 4 plane formation, 6 plane formation.
Yes, sir.
Don't get mad at me, I am just trying to help you out. I don't think you're mad at me, I think you like it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
More,
yeah.
sir.
You have good taste and good judgment.
We like it more, sir.
I know you like it. Do you like it, Senator Recto? Yan ang makakakita ng pera. But you see, I really believe, kung may pera, di ba, yung 75 million na billion, ha?
Yes, sir.
Kung papatakbuhin natin yung Hanjin, it takes what, Secretary Lorenzana, $12 million ika ng Hanjin a month. A month. A month. Hanjin has so many orders. Hindi naman malulugi yan eh. Kaya lang, maraming issue ngayon, tumaas ang halaga ng langis, marami nangyari sa Pilipinas, tumaas ang presyo natin, tumaas ang halaga ng langis, ngayon may Chinese impasse with America. Di ba?
Yes, sir.
At mukhang hindi pa gaganda yan, lalo na bibitayin ng Chinese yung Canadian. Kakanain nila yung Canadian na kumakanan ng drugs doon sa China. No? So, ibig sabihin, hindi maganda ang panahon. So, ang mga barko ngayon, ayaw mo nila magbayad, kaya may cash shortage yung Hanjin. Yung umuutang sila, ayaw na sila pautangin ng bangko. Now, sa tingin ko, sabi nga ni Senator Subiri, maganda yan ah. When the door closes, there is an opening for us. Matagal na natin minimiti. Bakit hindi natin nga i-take over, not by the Philippine Navy, because I don't think we have that capability yet, but by the private sector. Imbis na nagpapatayo yung SM na mga mall doon sa maraming traffic area, abay magpatayo sila ng capability natin na magtayo tayo ng barko. Sama natin si Ricky Rason, sama natin lahat ng mga big time dyan. Pagsama-samahin natin yung pera, isosyo natin yung kalahati ng 75 billion para mapatakbo yan. At by hook or by crook, we can always print money. That's a very reckless and irresponsible remark coming from a senator. I'm willing to do that.
Thank you, sir.
I am really willing to do that. If I had my way, we will print money to make sure that you can order your Philippine Navy vessels. And I would even put up a maritime academy there on nautical engineering. Nung ko pa sinasabi, nandiyan ang Hanjin, pag-aralan nyo kung paano gumawa ng barko, paano mag-welding, kung paano mag-boom na malalaki, ang ginagawa nila doon, di ba? Have you been there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Pinapiraso yun, pinagdidikit nila para model aircraft.
Yes,
di ba?
sir.
Model,
It's
we should do that, shouldn't we?
modular, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm
Yes,
sure
Your
the
Honor.
Philippine Navy, I'm winking my eye, I'm sure the Philippine Navy has spies there, tinitignan kung paano gumagawa. Kung hindi nyo ginagawa yan, mag-retire na kayo.
Give us the capability to do that, sir.
Ha?
Give us the capability to...
No. Para kasi si Churchill, give us the tools and we will finish the job. Si Churchill, walang pera noong araw yan.
Yes, sir.
Sino lang yung napanood niya, no? Pagkakain niya yung libro ni Churchill, kasi yung, the darkest hours. Kung yung ang Dunkirk, ang tanong ko doon, paano nakalusot yung mga pressure craft ng British na hindi binomba ng Germans, nakuha nila yung 300,000 stranded British troops in Dunkirk. Hindi ba?
Yes, sir.
In other words, kung gusto, maraming paraan. Kung ayaw, maraming dahilan. Di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
I remember the court martial of Billy Mitchell. He said the Japanese are going to invade Pearl Harbor. I'm sure Secretary Lorenzana knows that. And what happened to him? He got court-martialed. He proved that an aircraft can bomb a battleship. Laos-time battleship, aircraft carrier na naman ngayon, sabi niya. And so what happened? Kinort-martial siya. And what happened? In 1941, Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Kasi nasabi ko, tinitignan natin ang mindset. Yun ang unang tanong ko, di ba? Anong mindset ng China? Are they after hegemony? Because yun ang naging mindset nila. Tinignan nila yung Japan, nangunguna. Hindi nagpapauli. Sila kaagad ang atake. And I think the Americans knew that. I still believe that Roosevelt knew that Pearl Harbor had to be bombed, but he needed a raison d'etat para mag-declare ng war against the Germans and against the Japanese. Because ang lakas ng German-American bond. Ayaw nila magkapagyera. But the long and the short of what I'm trying to say, sir, is simply this. Kung nakikita natin na yun ang mindset, ba't hindi natin itulak quietly but surely, I certainly am not going to allow a country other than the Philippines, other than Korea or America, na ally natin, to take over that shipyard. Do you think that that's in the national interest, Secretary Lorenzana?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. It's to our interest.
It is in the national interest.
Yes.
Dahil ang shipyard na yan, most modern shipyard perhaps in the world, ito ang pinakahuli. At ang kalaban natin dyan palagi sa shipyard is China, ayan, no? China and Korea and Japan. They are the biggest builders of ships. Kalaban rin natin sa pagmamaning ang China. Ang Indonesia, pagmamaning, kalaban natin yan. Eh, doon na lang tayo eh. Tiga silbi ng kape, tiga swab the deck, parang ano, ha?
Tik-tik kalawang.
Tik-tik kalawang. Narinig ko, bata ko yan. Tik-tik kalawang. So, I think a strong push must be made by this country to get the Taipans or to get into a joint agreement with the Koreans. Maglagay kayo pera, maglalagay kami. Bitayin natin ang tao. And do you remember during the war, may pera ba yung Amerikano? World War II, do you remember? There was all the Hollywood stars that went and raised war bonds. They raised money to prosecute the war effort. So kung gusto, maraming paraan talaga. So sa tingin ko, if we build this, aren't we a maritime country, an archipelagic country? Hindi ba?
We are, sir. We are.
Oh, alam natin sabihin, pero hindi natin alam spellingin. Yung archipelago. Wala yung mabaksak yan. Pero we are an archipelagic country. And therefore, we must have the capability to have our own shipbuilding capability. And if I remember correctly, do you remember, sir, we're not, let's say, we're almost the same age, kaya lang, mas marami pa akong book sa inyo. No? Hindi mo ba totoo na meron tayong Baseco?
Yes.
Kabataan? Hindi mo ba totoo meron tayong NASCO?
NASCO.
No araw? Di ba? Oh, walang natuloy. Ilang beses na ako naglalabas ng mga weldingero sa nga ba yan, dito sa, I took out welders, Filipino welders from an area where they were being attacked. And when the welders came out, they were hired in Texas. Our welders are the best. We trained 30,000 welders there. Or at least, lagay mo ng 20,000 welders. Pag nagsara yan, mawawala pa yan. So the government must act very fast. Not out of panic, but because of need to have our own shipyard. Sa akin, I would willing to roll the dice on this and really get the country to rally around the flag and take over that shipyard, if necessary with the Koreans, and I'm sure they'll be willing to do so. Tumaya tayo. Alam nyo, kaya kami naglapit yan dito. Tumawag si Rillo de Libo sa akin. Kinuha namin yung Hanjin. At nagustuhan ng Hanjin nung ginawa na yung Philippine, yung ating Subic airport, nung kinukuha namin for FedEx, kalahati ng airport ang gumawa, Hanjin. That was the first time they built an airport. And at that time, the guy who was operating it became chairman later on, and he remembered that, and that's why he came here. So if we get them to invest here, they will have faith, mag-i-invest tayo, and maybe because of that, we can get the other businessmen here. We can sell shares of stock to the people. It's hard, but it can be done. And perhaps you could have a Philippine naval base inside Hanjin, instead of trying to get Subic Bay.
That's our plan.
That's the plan of the Navy.
No, your plan is to get ship repair in Subic. I don't like it.
We plan to transfer to...
Commerce, andyan na yung mga cruise ships. Kukunin na naman ninyo. Okay na... Yung Air Force, gusto rin doon sa airfield. Kailangan ipatayo natin yan. I think we should put our base there. Kung aalis talaga yan, kunin natin yan, then you can put a Philippine Navy base right there in Redondo. Di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
You know what the plan there originally was? I would move the whole city of Olongapo and put it there so that Olongapo's territory will become commercial development and it can go all the way to Bataan, Zambales, and Pampanga. Now I have a bill that's going to make that happen. Yung rich, it will now develop the whole Central Luzon. So this is what we're trying to do now. Now with Philseco, not Philseco, can you imagine? You have Philseco. We had very big ships there with Singapore. We had all the welders of ship repair facilities, Subic, the best. Lahat nagpunta na sa Amerika. And then you have ito ngayon na Hanjin. Abay, that's a natural resource. Hinulugan tayo ng Panginoon Diyos ng pagkakataon, tatabon pa natin? Talagang magagalit sa atin ng Panginoon. Hindi ba? Para nung araw, nagdadasal yung tao, bigyan niyo po ako ng pera at para ako, araw na mapagamot ko yung asawa ko at magkaroon akong pampasko. Narinig nung mayor, naawa, binigyan ng pera yung 500. Tinanggap naman. Tapos nagdasal ka agad yung tao. Diyos ko, maraming salamat po, pero sa susunod doon yung paraanin sa mayor, pinitik ko yung 500. Ganun na mangyayari sa pag hindi natin kukunin to. We have to get it ourselves. So we have to really prove that we can run this facility just as Clark and Subic went up when the Americans left. I was one of those, don't make them leave because we're not ready. Face in the alternative. Nung hindi nakinig, did you see us, kill over and die? No. I said, papatunayan natin sa nagpatanggal ng base dito na kaya nating itindig ang Subic Bay. At naitindig ng mga Pilipino sa Subic Bay. Yung Subic Bay. Nakuha natin ng FedEx. Alam, nung umalis na ako, nawala na yung FedEx. Of course, alam ko naman yan. Pupunta sa China, binabaliti yung kanilang kamay ng China. But precisely, the first question that FedEx asked of me, Secretary Lorenzana, and I think I said this last year, Dick, sabi ni Fred Smith, is China after hegemony here? Tatatakot siya na pag nag-invest sila ng malaki dito, baka lalamunin rin sila ng China. Kaya US Navy yan Pilot dati sa US Marine. Pilot yan. So I said, sagot nyo, pareho sagot nyo rin China has never been hegemonic. It has always referred to itself as a middle kingdom. Pinupuntahan ng mga tributaries around, hindi umaalis until I read 1421 ba yan? Look at 1421. A book that once upon a time, an emperor sent his eunuch captain and claimed that they discovered America in these big, big ships like Noah's Ark, and they claimed that it was the Chinese who discovered America. Just as the Chinese were the first here in Mindanao. And they built their Muslim, So, Mr. Secretary, having said all that, would you be able to recommend to President Duterte what you heard here today?
I already did last night, Mr.
You already did?
Yes, yes.
That's why I like you. You're always ahead of the pack. Well, hindi present progressive, I already did. Done already. Nalpasin na po.
Nalpasan na po.
Ano nangyari? Ano sagot niya?
I think,
Did he get excited? Did he stand up? Became erect?
we were actually
Started
standing
saying
up.
we're gonna shake the tree until it comes out into a new Philippine seaport.
Because I said that while Secretary Dominguez was also proposing some alternatives to the use of the Hanjin shipyard.
No, sabi Dominguez is a good plan. I think he's a
But
visionary enough to do
I
this.
also told him that our plan earlier and said that's a very good idea.
But we have to get out of the box, isn't it? Opportunity na yan Alam niyo ba, binigyan pa natin ng libreng kuryente yan, sinasubsidize natin yung kuryente nila para pumunta sila rito. Para magkaroon nga tayo ng technological advantage ngayon, pag-alis na, mawawala pa yan. So, sir, I recommend strongly, and I hope the Senate backs me up here, that as you heard Senator Lacson, Senator Subiri, I'm sure Senator Rector is in favor of this, and all of us here, we take over.
Yes, sir.
Wala, no sweat, we'll take over.
It's there. It's already working.
Kaya natin yan.
Kaya, sir. Kaya.
Sabi ni President Ramos, kaya ba natin ito? Kaya natin. Siguro man tayo. Kaya natin. So, kaya ba natin yung armed forces natin na makapag-build up? Huwag naman 2026. Apo. Pero ang kailangan nyo, sabihin nyo, ito ang kailangan natin. Kung minsan maganda yung management by objective. Hindi ko narinig yung sinasabi nyo na we want to build up What? Ano nga kalimutan ko na? Hindi na ako naniniwala. Yung F-86, ilang planes? 16 ba?
16 plane formation.
16 plane formation. Triangle, di ba? Diamond formation. O, diamond. O, sige, okay. Pag sinabi mo yan, yun pala ang goal natin eh. Sabihin ni President Duterte, in 2 years, bilhin na natin yan.
Best defense pa rin natin, sir.
Hindi nila alam yan eh. Maybe alam nila, pero maraming katunggalian na umaagaw sa pera. Di ba? Lalo na, dapat tigil na yung every 3 years election. Babawasan pa yung budget, kagagastos natin kung ano-ano ginagastos ng mga flood control. Di ba? Siguro, hindi ko na sinasabi, nagukuhan lang ako, I'm being facetious and being sacrilegious here. But as far as I'm concerned, we have to know where to put our money. And our money, for what it's worth it, must be to make sure that the military will get the right capability to defend us. In the Constitution, it says the military's role is to protect and defend and protect the Filipino people. It is a protector of the Filipino people. I don't think you have that capability right now. Sorry. I don't like to see our soldiers being ambushed. Nagiging propaganda war. Tama yung sinabi nyo kay Joe Masison, 50 years na sila dyan. Tayo rin, 50 years na eh. We have to win. And win not just by ours, but by making sure that Mindanao becomes developed. And how will it develop without the military protecting businesses and preventing people from burning their payloaders, their bulldozers and everything? Kulang rin tayo sa advocacy. Hindi kami makakapagnegosyo dyan kung hindi namin poproteksyonan yan. Hindi nyo kami poproteksyonan, sabi ng nagnegosyo. Can you imagine, anomalous? Campaign taxes, license to campaign. Tuturo ko kayo. Ginagawa ninyo. Di po ba? So, I think we've laid the predicate for this, Your Honor, and it is my hope that, I was going to ask you specifically kung ano talaga ang nasa pipeline to answer this airfields about 20 minutes away from our country. Do we already have radar? Can we listen to their radar? Can we listen to their radio? To their frequencies?
Our radar system, Your Honor, right now covers the northern portion of the country.
Now,
So in 9 months' time, I think the radar system in Mount Salakot will be up and running.
in Palawan,
In Palawan.
the highest peak in Palawan, Mount Salakot.
Yes, Your
Now, let
Honor.
me ask you a question, sir. So, okay, we have radar. Great. 20 minutes, lumipad na yung aeroplano. How long will it take us to send our four-man formation of FA-50s?
In 5 minutes, we can send, Your Honor, we can have them take off in 5 minutes. We have 2 minutes and 5 minutes warning.
Scramble time. Scramble time.
Scramble time.
In the Cuban crisis, I was in Clarkfield as an ROTC officer of the Ateneo. We were going to Baguio to debate with the PMA. We stopped by Clark. There's a Cuban crisis. And the klaxon warned, because they were already on alert that time. We had to jump from the cockpit of an F-102 Delta. And they were off and running right away. 20 minutes is not a very, very easy thing to get up and take off and be able to answer. Because kahit paano, dapat matapatan lang sila. Hindi ba nila kayo tinetest?
Right now, Your
I'm sure
Honor,
tinetest kayo.
right now, Your Honor, we cannot detect any fighter planes in the 3 major islands, Subi Reef, Mischief Reef, and Fiery Cross Reef. Only transport planes, and we have detected them.
But I assume you have rules of engagement in case they do that. Like in the case of the USS Campbell ba yun, Secretary? Yung destroyer? USS Campbell? Tinutungki nung destroyer ng China. Siyempre, nagtitimpi pareho yan.
But right now, Your Honor, when we meet each other in the West Philippine Sea, our Navy ships challenge the Coast Guard and the frigates of the Chinese Navy.
So is it not true that the Coast Guard is now part of the Chinese Navy?
Yes, that's true, Your Honor.
That adds another set of in the occasion, ang napagkadami-dami na hindi na yun ang pagkakamali ng nakaraang administrasyon, ginamit yung Coast Guard laban sa civilians, di ba? Ginamit yung Philippine Navy, yung bago nating barko na galing sa Amerikano na walang armaments,
Yes, Your Honor.
di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, pag ginamit nyo yun, ang tingin nila, nangangaya kayo, tinapatan tayo ng 50 barko nila. Ng Coast Guard pa lang, wala pa yung Navy, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Di pa naman sila nagpapadala ng Navy, di ba? Ang kanilang Navy doon sa atin.
Once in a while, they bring their frigates in there.
Frigate.
Yes, sir.
Well, all I'm saying is when it comes down to, I agree with Secretary Lozana to a certain extent. I'm not going to be an alarmist, but I will prepare. I will prepare for any eventuality, even the worst kind, at the very least, para may panapad. And what is the protocol, sir? Should we have that kind of a problem? All of a sudden, some rogue guy suddenly flies out and drops a couple of bombs somewhere. That's far-fetched, but still, if it does happen, again, going back to the Mutual Defense Pact, will the Americans defend us? And that is where the question arises, isn't there, Secretary Lozano?
I think if that happens, Your Honor, I think the U.S. Congress will still convene to discuss if they will come to our aid or not.
Sir, are we designated as a non-NATO ally still by the U.S.?
We are still a major non-NATO ally.
Non-NATO ally.
Non-NATO ally.
So as a stopgap measure, until we truly become self-reliant, what is available to us with our existing treaties and agreements, including that, being a non-NATO ally, or the newly approved Asia Reassurance Initiative Act signed by U.S. President Trump? Is that part of our choices in case we are attacked?
I think it is. If it's part of our MDT. Yeah.
And in terms of deployment, they have the Liaoning, right?
Oh, the Chinese, yeah.
Yeah, the aircraft carrier.
The aircraft carrier Liaoning.
And it passed through the Taiwan Straits
Yes, sir.
very recently. And Americans have the Ronald Reagan from Japan.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And how many carriers do they have stationed now? Because some of their carriers go all the way to the Middle East, right?
I think they have one carrier group always stationed there in Japan, Korea area.
That's the Reagan.
The Reagan, yes, the Reagan. Sometimes they bring the Steinitz, USS Steinitz, also aircraft carrier.
I know. I remember correctly, they would have, at the height of all the tensions, they had 3 going to the Middle East, nagpapalit-palit sila.
Yeah.
You know why, no? Because every time they come and plead the Middle East, they would have 3 paychecks or 6 paychecks. And they would go on Liberty and Subic, mayaman lahat sa mga tao sa Subic sa ulong po ng araw. Because doon ginagastos yung pera. But again, these are the things that we have to rely on. What about Australia? Or do you think that it will be today? Do you see a scenario? I'm not an enemy of China. I'm just saying, because you're so big, I want to be assured. Can I rely on Australia, New Zealand, Korea, Indonesia, Singapore, and the Philippines to have an alliance together with Japan and the U.S. so that at least we can be together in case an interloper comes in?
I think the single factor here, Your Honor, is that the U.S. has alliances with these countries. There's alliance with Japan, Korea, us, I think Thailand, and Australia and New Zealand. So it is the single factor that gels these countries together, maybe, if there is a common enemy.
Would Israel be a good ally in terms of procurement of arms?
In our opinion, yes, sir.
I agree with you, sir.
Yes, yeah.
But they want cash. Siyempre, mga...
Yes, of course, they want cash. Yeah.
But what is to be preferred? Foreign military sales or individual sales from, let's say, Israel or Korea?
I think
In your opinion? Di ba, hindi lang naman bibili ka ng barko eh. Kailangan may kasamang programming yan. Armaments, training,
Yes.
lahat yan, bibigay, di ba? And in foreign military sales, kompleto na yan, di ba?
I think we,
Pagka kumuha ka sa foreign military sales ng Amerikano, nakapackage na lahat yung ibibigay sa inyo, di ba?
yes, Your Honor, and they're both prepared mode of procurement. Yeah.
That is the preferred mode of
No, both. We can do both actually.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
But why did we get those helicopters from Poland that don't even have a winch? That cannot even engage in search and rescue. Some of whom was not able to fly well. Nag-crash na ata. Ilan na nag-crash doon? Dalawa? Tatlo? Tatlo na. Ilan na natira? Five. Whatever happened to the U's that were bought na hindi lumipad? Nagtipid tayo, kumuha tayo doon sa isang supplier na...
They're still flying, Your Honor.
No, the
But
US.
some of
Di
them
ba
are,
kinansel nila Waltz Gasminyan?
yeah, 13 were delivered. 13 were delivered and 8 were not anymore
Serviceable.
Yung walo, hindi na natin pinadeliver. So, out of the 13...
Napalipad yun yung 13?
Yes, sir. There are 5 ang full mission capable, sir.
Out of 13, sir, 2 crashed. We have 11 in our inventory right now.
And they're still flying.
They are. Yes, sir.
And you
Yes, Your
can tell
Honor.
I'm sorry, this is a very cruel question. You can tell the families of our Air Force men and women that they are safe with these helicopters?
Yes, Your Honor, because we have also a robust maintenance system. If we have problems with maintenance through our maintenance check, we will not let them fly.
You know, a few years ago, I always rode Philippine Air Force helicopters and my children would fret. And I say, if our armed forces can ride them, I can ride them.
Yes, Your Honor.
I trust our armed forces. I want to be
Yes,
able to
yes.
say that all the time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Not
You
for
can-
my
we
sake,
can-
but for your sake. And I remember during a mission with Punong Bayan, Director Punong Bayan with the Red Cross, I borrowed a helicopter from the Philippine Air Force because of the typhoon that caused damage in Aurora. And I was supposed to be in the chopper. At the last minute, I was called to help bring the body or the remains of Aurora Quezon to the Quezon Monument. And I did not go. And Director Punong Bayan was begging me to go with him. Sabi niya, turuan kita nung makakuha ng photography na sa Kwan. Unfortunately, he died in a
Yes,
plane, in
yes.
the crash.
Yes, Your Honor. That's
That was never explained to me why he crashed. They were saying some sort of haze.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a valid reason for a crash. Was that pilot error or was that engine failure or what?
Your Honor, I think, I believe the results were, one is material related and one is pilot error. I cannot just, of the 2 crashes.
And sir, what is the status of our support systems by way of our mechanics? We used to have the best mechanics in the Philippine Air Force. Is that true?
We still...
We still do?
Present tense, Your Honor.
We still do.
We still have the
Talaga?
best mechanics. But we are strengthening our systems because we want to develop really our self-reliance defense posture because we lose them steadily to the Middle East because they retire early and then they apply for the Middle East.
Ganun. So we
That's
train
right.
and then they go into better pastures.
Yes, sir.
But after they've trained the replacements, of
Yes,
course.
yes, Your Honor. But some of them are having jobs here in the local flying schools.
Because
So-
I used to remember some Navy pilots saying, "Oh, we don't trust any. They're no longer trained by the U.S. and so we're not too comfortable with them." I used to remember that, and I used to hear that, and I would tell them, "No, we had the best mechanics in the Air Force, the Philippine Air Force." I mean, if the Philippine craftsmen can repair your ships here in SRF, ship repair facility, we do have our mechanics in the Philippine Air Force that are highly responsible and care for the families of our fighting men.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, we already did one major repair for a C-130 here in country, and we will be doing that within the year or early next year for C-130.
We did the C-130, one.
One here before, and now we lose about 450 million pesos to a foreign country because we send our C-130 there.
For repair.
For repair. So if we can do that here, at least half of that will go to the pockets of our Filipino maintenance experts, And then the rest probably to
Akala
an
ko,
investor.
akala ko
We
tayo
can
na
do-
gumagawa. Saan natin pinapadala? Sa
Malaysia, Your Honor. Right now, Malaysia.
Ngayon?
Yes.
Malaysia pa.
Yes, Your Honor. But
I remember there was a young man who died. I used his plane, C-130, when he went to Sulu, brought troops there. We went that early in the morning. I was talking with all the families of the people there, and they were standing, sleeping on the crates. You know, a lot of people don't know how our sacrifices of our soldiers. And I always relate that story. Women, families are lying on the crates, etc. I talked with Sergeant Major, and I said my son is graduating from the Philippine Military Academy. I said I would be honored if you'd invite me to his graduation so I can congratulate him. And you know, I remember these things. And I'll tell you, unfortunately, after we flew that plane, about 2 months later, that plane crashed, C-130. A major, I have his name in my phone book. He crashed with it in Davao. And I understand
Major Zambrano, Your Honor.
there was a problem there. At the last minute, somebody rushed to the C-130, may pinakidala, and when it flew, it crashed. Is that accurate?
Your Honor, right now it has never been proved what's the real cause of that crash.
You know, I worry about that because, you know, Lion Air, they just recovered the voice box recorder in 26 feet of mud. I mean, I got to salute those guys. I mean, hindi sila humingi ng tulong sa Amerikano, sila mismo ang tumulong. So, I think we should really try to determine, in fairness of the family, whatever caused the crash that killed that young man. I understand his
Yes, Your
father was
Honor.
also in the armed forces before.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anyway, all in the spirit of trying to get us the best Air Force for the safety of our country and the safety of our people. You know, sometimes I joke about it. I said, you know, we have the best politicians money can buy. Mukhang hindi nakuha. Literally, si Secretary Rizal lang nakuha. Now, just saying that, but we become sometimes jaded and become very sarcastic, which we should not do. I refuse to accept the fact that we cannot provide our country with the best military because we owe it to our country to do so. The Constitution is not a mere scrap of paper.
Yes, sir.
So having said that, please be assured of our support here for many of the senators, if not all of the senators, and our respect, our highest respect and esteem for our armed forces of the Philippines. We salute you, all of you, and hope that we can give you the best, and I hope you can also make sure that from time to time you give us a briefing on what you want to acquire or what you need so that we won't be scrambling and researching at the last minute, because we do our work here.
We will do that, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary Lozano. Always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And thank you very much to all the fighting men.
Thank you very much,
here.
Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Mabuhay po kayong lahat. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Session is suspended for 1 minute. Ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session resumed.
Mr. President, before we act on the budget of the National Defense Department of National Defense, I move that the, going to that, I move that the interpellations done during the Committee on the Whole, particularly on the issue on Hanjin and the modernization of the armed forces, be sent to the committee or transmitted to the Committee on National Defense, as well as the Committee on the Committee on Government Enterprises, Mr. President. I so move.
Is there any objection?
Public enterprises.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is carried.
With that, Mr. President, I move that the budget of the Department of National Defense, Office of the Secretary, National Defense College of the Philippines, Office of Civil Defense, Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, Veterans Memorial Medical Center, Philippine Army, Philippine Air Force, Philippine Navy, General Headquarters, AFP Wide Service Support Units are deemed submitted. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is carried.
And we'd like to congratulate the men and women of the armed forces, together with the Defense Secretary, for ably answering all the questions of all our colleagues.
After 10 hours.
And Mr. President, before we suspend for lunch, we'll come back at 2:30. Mr. President, may we request that the Department of Public Works and Highways be ready on deck, together with the Commission on Elections and the Bureau of Immigrations. Ito na lang pong tatlong naiwan, so we will take this up when we resume on 2:30 in the afternoon. We suspend, Mr. President, for a lunch break and come back at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Right. Session suspended until 2 p.m. 2:30 p.m.